All right, you're gonna have to bear with me. I turned my monitors and I have vertical monitors now. I really like the vertical monitors. Actually, I've always liked them. I think I stopped using them because I was having issues with my mounts before, but I fixed them. So just let me know if this recording is too small or blurry or whatever, and um, I don't know. I can think of something. I mean, I have one more monitor that's horizontal, but it's at a different spot. So just let me know. Um, yeah. So okay, I wanted to go over a couple different things. One was SQ here. Um, I feel like this was a really good stock in play, and here's the reason why. SQ is clearly in a downtrend, super weak. You can see a lot of volume now coming in the last few weeks here. Clearly, $100 and $102 is holding up. So we have support. I mean, when you zoom out, um, you can see right here, this was the high. It was the high for like, a year and a half or something. So, so it makes sense why that's holding up right there. But not just that. Basically, we had a compression within a compression. Okay. So we have these 3 days here where it's clearly being held up by 100 and 102. You have an inside day, inside day. You have three inside days. So you have a daily range, but you have a lot of volume coming in. So you have a compression essentially, right? Let me get out my marker here. Come on. Okay, so yeah, you have a compression here, right? So you have pressure coming down. Yeah, we had a bounce. Then we're coming down and we're really pushing down on this 100, 102. Then we have a compression, we have pressure. Then, so we have one compression right there. Then we have another inside day with even more compression. We have a really tiny doji with just as much volume. I mean, this just screams breakout, right? So you got a compression here, 3 day compression, and then an added 1 day compression on top of that. So you have a compression within a compression here. So I just feel like it's so easy to tell that you're going to have a strong move one way or the other. Um, it's just more about, how does price set up in a way that we can trade it. Um, my plan in the pre-market was I wanted price to come down to the top of yesterday's doji, uh, which is 103.78. So yeah, it was right around here. So I guess I just felt like that's what I would have preferred in the pre-market. That was my plan. So I wanted somehow price to somehow get down to here, and then I would try to go long. But it actually hit it in the pre-market right there, and then it opened and compressed. So I wasn't watching it anymore. Actually, I was watching other stocks, but I think that this is a legitimate attempt. I mean, right away, I'm already extremely bullish as long as we're above this level. It's a compression within a compression. I'm bullish for price to go from here to at least 110, which is the top of this compression, and then the breakout of 110 and keep going essentially maybe to 120. It didn't do all of that, but it definitely did go up. Um, so yeah, I would have. I think that I would have rather it came down here. However, we can't always get exactly what we want, and I do think that this is a setup that we like, which is a compression with a stock in play, and then once we see it start to break out, you can get in on the new 5 minute high or high of day, assuming that that was the pullback essentially, because you also want to say, like I've been looking at gaps a lot more and asking myself, especially with all of these earnings and stuff, I ask myself, okay, what kind of gap is it? Well, it's a gap after a buying day. So we need some kind of profit taking first. And this was sort of your profit taking. I mean, it's not always perfect and exact, but you had a little bit of selling and then you had a compression, and that's your profit taking there. It was ready to break. And then 110 was what I thought was the top of the range. That was also going to break out. But we always pick levels, and we say this is my level and I'm trading around it. But do we actually stop and ask, okay, was it a good level? Did price actually move around the level? Like, you can go back and see if your level is actually important, because a lot of times we pick levels and price literally just rips through it so many times. And in my mind, that's not a good level. I'm sure you can say it's like quote unquote value, but the levels that I think that we all want to pick are levels where price doesn't get stuck at. We want price to hit those, and then a change in tape happens, a change in character, and then we either get the break with volume or we get the bounce with volume, or a bounce with different change of tape. So here's the 110 level, and then I asked myself, did 110 work? I would say it generally did. I mean, it did go down through it a little bit, but it held. I mean, that in my mind says that, okay, 110 was legit and it was a good level. So that's all. I mean, right here is when it breaks it. And a lot of times what I'll also want to see when I go in later after the day and see, I'll want to see like a change in volume, like an increased spike in volume when it breaks the key level. That'll also tell me, okay, I was reading the level correctly. You don't see it as much here, so I don't think it's like necessarily a clear as day example of a level being a great level, but I do think it was a level. And I mean, if I go to the other chart here, so actually it's saying 109 is the level. I don't know if I zoom out. Oops. If I zoom out, it looks like so it was more. It was so this little range here. Yeah, the 2 days ago, that the high there was around 109. But what I like to do is, I like to, if the daily range and the highs or the lows are all within, within $1 or less, and they're tight enough, I always average to the top, to the highest 0.1. But really, it's saying yesterday it broke, or yesterday's level, and you can see there was a spike in volume right here when it broke yesterday's high. So I mean, or 2 days ago. The most recent daily level is always going to be super fresh, no matter how strong a level is from in the past. I mean, the previous day, some of those daily levels they're going to be so fresh that you're going to see spikes there too. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about this setup. It wasn't necessarily in play. However, I think the stock has been in play the last few weeks, being down here. You can see all this volume, and I think it's making all kinds of good levels. I think if it ever breaks 100, it's really going down. Or if it doesn't, I think that it could get up to 120 again, and then after 120, it could come up to this 132 area, and then after that up to 150. So you kind of see these little ranges here. They're not as perfect, but yeah. All right, I adjusted my screen a little bit. Okay, so here's my trade on NIO. Man, this was such a weird trade. I planned for this so well, but it just didn't follow through. But I had an amazing just kind of pre-market preparation and planning, and just way more in depth than I ever have done before. And it really helped me hold on and just sort of understand where I'm at within the trade the whole time. Um, I have a set of questions that I'm filling out every morning now, and it's like kind of eye opening how much I wasn't doing in the morning. Um, Sometimes it takes me hours into the day until I really warm up, but now after asking myself these questions, I it almost like really snaps me in and wakes me up, and then I kind of understand really like what levels I really like, what's not worth it, or just there's just all kinds of things. But so here's my SPY trade. Here's the daily. I'll just go over that really quick. Let me do the other daily here. So Neo downtrending, big gap down, and then sold off more than it has been reversing, right? So it's doing somewhat of a kind of head and shoulders cup and handle thing here. Just did the little handle. So basically we're doing the breakout of the handle, okay? And then we have this gap here, which I wanna fill the gap. Essentially, that's my plan. I guess I'm a little biased on this too because I did buy some calls and I'm hoping that it fills the gap here at 27 or 28. But no doubt, I thought that this was a good setup here. So basically, we have a daily range of right here, and then we have a bit of a trend up, right? So we have a compression going on here, and you can even see this was the top here too. So really, this is a nice little open area here between 25 and 26, and then right after 26, boom, we have a quick route to 27, and then one more up to 28 for that final sort of really strong resistance here, old support. So what this was a daily range or daily compression breakout, and then a potential gap fill. But it was a lot of buying here, and there was a buying candle here, so we were going to have a retest, and we did. And that was the plan, was for it to pull back as far as it could to 25 so I could get a really good entry, and then I could start my position. And I was planning on it getting to 26 and then eventually busting through 26, and then I was going to add in heavier and get in really heavy and hope that it showed me signs of new volume or momentum going up. And I was really going to hold for a large part of it was going to be 27, the gap fill. But it just didn't happen like that today. It essentially hit 26, went inside of the gap a little bit, but really just did not want to fill the gap today. So it really wanted to stay in this, in this area here. I mean, really just wanted to stay in here. So it was essentially two different trades. It was, I wanted to get long at 25 up to 26 and then maybe profit some, but then hope that it gives me another signal and then go in as a separate trade, another adding in, but it could have been a separate trade for the long here. So so then let's go to the other chart. So I actually got in long down here at 25.20-ish, and I think it was a really low stop, really wide stop. So actually I was just risking a little bit, and then I got out and I wanted to think about it some more, and then I got back in, and then I realized, oh crap, this is in my paper trading account. So when it came back down here, I just got out, and then I just thought about it some more. And it did hold. There was a big bid at 25 and it just didn't want to go. I saw the tape start to increase on the way up here. If I go to the 1 minute, actually, it was pretty right here. Price came up clearly at this 25.3. There was an ask and it pushed it down, got filled. And then as soon as it went up again, you could see new volume. The tape started to flicker. It got above 25.30, and so then I got in again with my real account. Wasn't as good of an entry, but I was okay with it because, like I said, my idea was or my plan was that it was going to eventually break 26, and then we were going to get some kind of consolidation and then a new high. So just as long as I got in somewhere down here, I was going to be able to get super heavy up here. ATR is yeah, 1.8. So 25 to 26 is only one. So high RVOL, it was at I think 140%. This could easily made it to 27. So I don't know. I thought all signs pointed to it was going to be a long. I didn't like the VWAP even when price ripped up here, and this I felt really good here. You could see that VWAP really wasn't taking a strong turn up. It was staying a little bit more flat. And then I did realize that, hey, I had this big plan to go heavy and everything, but I really didn't think about how I was going to add and what I was going to wait for the ad. So I do feel like I probably added pretty quickly here. But this line where the gap starts, this was where the gap exactly started on the daily here. Right here, 25.75. And so it breaks that, and then it also breaks this whole $1.26. And I felt like those were two good levels that were now going to be support. So even if it did pull back, which it did, my stop was going to be lower down here underneath VWAP and underneath 25.75. I didn't think it was going to get back under 26 and 25.75, which I guess it didn't. So my stop was down here for a while, all day. I held this all day long, just waiting for it to break. And so it does look like I was a bit stubborn here. But I do think that if I keep doing things like this, I'm going to end up having monster trades. And I would love to do this every day. Just have a plan like this, stick with it, really understand where the big levels are, and not overtrade it, not overthink it. Not fight so much in here or so much in here. You get in around the levels, you add in when it gets through the other levels, and that's about it. Like I didn't fight it in here. I think the old me would have probably partialed on the way up here, and then say I added in here, I probably would have started to get out of some of it as it came down and tried to get back in, and I would have just kind of probably overtraded here. So yeah, I don't know. Here's what it is. Okay, so here's Facebook. I wasn't necessarily planning on trading it, but I did have it obviously on my watch list because it has been in play the last few days, and we were seeing a potential isolated pivot. Multiple days down, big strong day down, an indecision day, and then a new daily high. We could get a nice reversal, maybe even up to the top up here at 245, 250, and who knows, maybe it'll try to attempt to fill some of the gap. Or it'll come up, hit it, and then eventually it'll keep going down. I don't know. But so that's essentially the play, was a reversal isolated pivot. And then, so here's the 5-minute. So my plan was that it needed to get not only above yesterday's high, the doji, which was 225.35 right here. I wrote resistance right here. That's the high of that doji, I believe. I wanted it to get above that, and I wanted it to get above the day before, after it sold down and it pulled back, hit VWAP, couldn't go any higher, and then sold down. So I wanted it to get above yesterday's high and this secondary high, because then I felt like bulls would then be more in control. They'd be in control above this, and then they'd be even more in control above this, and then we could look to get long here. But after you got long above 228, I knew that 230 was going to be really big resistance, because just look, I mean, came down, hit 230, came down, hit 230. And then on that one day, I had that crazy big breakout, but that was, that didn't last long. Sold off, and then the opening day got under that breakout level and sold off hard, hit that 230 again, and really compressed against it, and then boom, busted down through it. So 230 is an awesome level. That's probably the best level. Well, that level and that breakout level of 236 here. So those two levels are the best in terms of just clearly seeing change in character and levels busting through it and busting back through it. So so I wanted, to get above yesterday's high and then above this 228, and then it was target was 230. And then above, if it could get above 230, well, I wasn't really sure if it could, if above 230, well, sure. I mean, it could get all the way back up to 236, but I kind of found some sub levels in here and kind of watched it here. So let me go over what had happened. Okay, so right here, look down here, you can see a clear change in volume around 1230. Okay, so all day it was just stuck in a consolidation range here. And a lot of times price, when it wants to make its move, it won't wait till the high of day and then give you that new volume. Sometimes it does, but a lot of times it'll start down at the bottom of the range or in the middle, like it did here. It just makes up its mind, and then boom, it just goes and it busts right through that level and then keeps going. And it almost doesn't really, sometimes it doesn't give you that big retest because it starts down here as opposed to starting right here with volume. It busts through and then does the pullback and then keeps going. Here it already got its momentum going right here, busted through, and then it busted through that 228 and then gave that nice retest. So that's another example of like, okay, was my level legit? Was I just making it up? Because we're always just finding lots of levels, that we could find a million levels and convince ourselves for this, that, and this reason, indicators, moving averages, etc. But you can see here that it did bust through it with volume and then did come down and retest it, which I really liked. And then it even came down again and retested it. So to me, that was a good level. And so I guess, it was a bit chasey. But you could just see new volume continue. It did start to die a little bit, but I just held on because I felt like, well, once it got above 228, I couldn't really see it. Once I got above both of these levels, I just really couldn't see it coming back in it. And so I partialed twice here at 230, and you can see here again why 230 was clearly a good level, because look at it, took it from 1250. It took it an hour of compressing up against it. So, and I'm really proud of myself for holding on there. I wasn't even going to partial here. It was really my second partial was prepping from up here, but I just, volume was decreasing. So I really thought, well, maybe this thing is done and it's just going to sort of roll over. But I did partial a little bit again, and then I added in, you could see new volume, spike, ignition here, boom, breaks through that 230, which is that really good level here. And then I felt like, okay, it's a whole nother trade again. So I added in and sort of just kind of watched it, and it really couldn't get higher than 233. So I just kind of partialed up there and got all out right here. So it looks really nice. I don't know. It's not like the best setup, but I do think, when you have a stock like this, that just the gap down is so extreme that all of these levels are super fresh and really good to trade around. And if they line up like they did, that you can trade around them. Okay, so AMD, Tyler was wondering about NVIDIA and AMD. I've been watching AMD really since the earnings, the really good earnings, and gapped up really big at 130, and then it sold off all day. So ever since then, I really liked it because I liked this gap here between 116.50 and 118.50. You can see here is a gap here, and then again it gapped over it. So I really liked that gap as levels, and then I really liked how big of a volume day that was, and how I had actually kind of called that level even on that morning as being a level, and it was. So ever since then, I've always liked this 130. I felt like that was a 10 out of 10 level. And So I guess it's just it sold off a bit. It held that gap. It's just been creeping up and almost getting stronger. And then today, price actually opened at 130. It did sell off, but then it did a nice compression up against 130 pretty early in the day, and then ended up busting through it. So I think right then and there it was a breakout. I wasn't watching it though. I don't think. So this was it right here. It opens just under 130. I think even in the pre-market, it yeah, in the pre-market it was actually slightly above 130 right here. And I noticed that. So I'm like, oh man. I guess that told me that this was really strong when I saw it in the pre-market above 130, because I'm like 130, that's that level where it sold off from on that earnings day. So it did sell off, but you can see it sort of used yesterday's value that it was created, bounced off of that, and then by hour and a half into the day breaks through it. You get a little bit of volume, a little bit of spike in volume, breaks through it, and then does a nice retest, and then it's off and running. You get almost $3 move out of it from there. So I guess I just really like the levels there. I mean, this area was a bit trickier these 4 days, but I really liked down here these gap levels, and I really liked 130. So I guess I just felt like if price gets above 130, buyers are now, these short. Look at how many shorts, or look at how much selling is here. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of profit taking from these days, but that's also a lot of sellers. And so as soon as you get above that and that precise level 130, boom, you got a nice sort of change in character. So it's just anytime we have really good levels and we understand a really good level, or a really good level's made from an earnings day, we just have to mark it. We have to put a price alert around it, and we always have to be watching it, because it'll come into play later. NVIDIA, I actually haven't been watching NVIDIA as much. I just remember NVIDIA's 271 level was a really good level through here, because you could see here 271 held, it bounced, and then this was sort of the beginning of that big sell-off with the markets. And I believe so 271 held, it busted through it, kind of got back above it, did a little reverse and came up, then busted through it again, came up, retested it, and then sold off from there. So I liked 271 there, but ever since I haven't really been watching it. But here, if you look at the last few days, I mean, it did make a nice range here. These 4 days really line up, and then even this 5th day, and then this day, and then this day. I mean, it really lines up around this 250, 251. So I actually really do like that. And then you combine that with AMD opening at 230, looking really strong. So you do have a decent range right there. It does gap up after a green day, so you do have profit taking. It pulls back. So I do think there's a bit of a gap sort of in this area here. Not as much volume, because I really still like 271. Sure, it got through it, but then came right back above, and then gets under retest, went down. Now it's going back up to 271, and we'll see. So I'm not bearish, I'm bullish on this, but as long as price does not get above 271, I don't think it's going to keep going. It has to get above 271 to be bullish. So I do think that once it comes up to 271, we're going to see some resistance. And I think that this is going to hold too, this 250, 251. So now I think there's a nice little range here to play, especially with a good volume day like this, with this day. I don't know how I would have read that, but I will say that the AMD was a clear indicator to me that it was potentially strong, and then it eventually broke that 130. But then Apple here, I've been watching Apple a lot, and I have not been day trading Apple because I think it just day trades like shit recently. I think none of us have been day trading it, but it is a really good indicator for sort of like Apple needs to break levels for the SPY to make new highs and shit like that, because this is like the leader. So I mean, I just love this 176. I mean, I had liked this before today because you could see here it couldn't get above it here, and after this sell-off came up, retested it and went down. You could see here it was a level here. So clearly 176. You know, once we get above 176, we're probably going to test all-time high again. And so today I was watching Apple because I also noticed, okay, Apple's gaps up. It's nearing 176. Man, we might have a big move on our hands today. But sure enough, it just could not break it. It was battling it up here. It was looking like it was part of the day, but then it would come down, and then it really just stayed in there. And if you remember, we saw that really big bid at 175, and it just kept kind of dragging it down, but not bringing it all the way down, dragging it down, but not bringing it all the way down, and just stayed in here. So it's almost like we clearly have pressure coming up, but we have a really good resistance here. So we almost have, I mean, this was just a really good compression day, essentially. We have pressure pushing down, and then we have this new momentum pushing up, and it just kind of had moved a bit too much and didn't have enough to get through that. That probably just shows how strong of a resistance this is. Yeah, because if we look at the 5 minute or the 2 minute or whatever, you can see, yeah, like Apple also, you know, it was above the 176 area in the pre-market, then opens here, and now here, somewhere in here, I'm thinking, oh man, we're about to go, and never did. And then it sold off and just sort of stayed here. It just really wasn't tradable. But I guess it did sort of break it in the pre-market or the post-market, but then came back under. So I don't know. I just think there's a lot of indecision here. It's higher time frame pressure down, higher new momentum, higher time frame pushing it back up. So for Lyft, I actually had a pre-market plan for if price got under here, because sort of like Piton, where Piton had that big selling day, and then price got above that selling day, and then it was just a huge move up. Here, I'll just show you really quick. Right here, we had a lot of volume at the time of selling, but then you also combine that with a lot of volume of selling here too. So that's what made this level so much better. Not only this is a good level, this is a good day, this is a good like high and low to trade around, no doubt, just by itself because of all that volume and then the selling. I mean, even without this other stuff, I think a move up would have had a lot of shorts having to cover anyways. But then you combine this with this amazing big selling down day, high of day here matches up with the high of day. I mean, this is just, I completely set this up in the pre-market yesterday, this idea, but I just did not trade it. And that's why I got mad at myself, but I learned my lesson. I did some reviewing, and that's why I fixed my pre-market plan today. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to do that again. You know, if I really see something I like, I'm going to really break it down and be prepared and have it memorized in my head, have it written all over the charts, everything. So, but anyways, for Lyft, sort of the opposite here. You know, I mean, sure, it's a downtrending stock, but it's sort of in a range here. And then we have a huge volume day yesterday, but it's an up day, right? So a ton of buying. And so I just kind of thought, okay, well, if price can get under here, we're going to have a ton of buyers that are going to probably get out, and then I want to short it. You know, generally with the overall trend down, we have a lot of new buyers, and then gets underneath, and I just thought it could be a really good short potential. But on the opposite end, I mean, I also think that if it didn't get under and it held, you would have those same buyers or new buyers holding it up again, pushing it back up, and it could be a good range trade, right? A second day daily range support or second day support value play to the top, and then you get back above here, depending on what time of the day it is. If it's earlier in the day and you have potential for a whole nother move, yeah, you could then go long for another trade long, which I understand that. I don't know if that's too extended for you guys, but I also like that too. As long as we have high RVOL and like I said, it's early in the day. So you have, this is where it, especially if price opens right here, this is a great area for it to open, right? We always want, like on a second or third day play, we always want it to open right in the middle. That way it does that quick pop to our level and then we short it, right? Or it does the quick profit taking down to the bottom, hits our support, and then we go long. Like, I feel like we really like it when it opens in the middle like this. This is something we should probably talk about more. So then if we look at the 2 minute here, yeah, it's not very pretty. I mean, like the 2 minutes kind of ugly. Looks like it opened right around here. It did come down close to that 38.42. I don't even know if that was exactly the level. I think it was, yeah, but it just didn't get all the way down there. So I don't know if we could have even entered that. But I do think, yeah, I mean, but look, I mean, by 10:30, right, the trend is established a lot of times by 10:15, 10:30, and it hasn't moved that much yet. Gets all the way up, boom, breaks through it. You see new volume, right? We have volume coming down, boom, we get new fresh volume, breaks through that 41.50. And then, it's only 10:30. You could get long there. You could get long on the pullback. And then you get a nice long from there. It's not the prettiest, but the idea makes sense, right? Buyers didn't even want it to come back down here. And so it was pretty strong. So that makes sense. I don't know if it's an A+ setup or not, but all right, that's all I got. Thanks.